5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now you tell to the person close to you which movie was this, and then let me know if you have the same movie. You have to, yeah. Yeah, that's enough. So, did someone have the same movie? No? Man, you guys are so unique. I had those three movies, and actually, like Edward Scissorhands, The Chocolate Factory, and Pirates of the Caribbean. And the most interesting thing for me about those three movies were how this guy, John Depp, how he could manage to change from a movie to the other and acting like a different person. Like he had a different behavior, he had a different face basically. And but under the covers, he was the same guy still. And I will tell you this true story just to give you some context to it. This guy, he used to work with me. He's called Bruno. Yeah, he's called Bruno, and he was a developer, like in one of the teams I worked. And basically, his main responsibility was to maintain and code this huge application, like huge application. And this application was like responsible for many features in the company. And it was basically like this. And it was quite hard for him to maintain it because you know a lot of code and a lot of, I don't know, spaghetti code basically. So he started searching about how to fix this problem he had, and he found out something called micro frontends that would be basically taking all these features he had and then creating smaller applications that would be like rapid. And later on, like after we started using it in the team, Bruno became happy again, and it was really good for us. And at some point, he realized that he was writing basically the same component more than once across the applications. Like, and also like all the time that he wrote this code, like it was different, like it was with a different approach. So it was really, again, it was really hard to maintain. And besides that, all the application was looking like twin brothers, but from different parents, something like this. And there was this guy, Sebastian. Yeah, he's from Poland as well. And he was working with us in the team. And he was like, man, I've heard something about like styled components. So I believe we could do like create our components, and then we would basically share this component, this UI library across our application using like an npm package. So as we were using already React, we decided to go and start using styled components. And that was also the time when I joined to the team, and we started working on it. A lot of time ago, like a lot of time spent working on it, we became with the first version. And it was, starting by the name, it was really bad, as you can see. Like Tata React UI, it wasn't good. So we did some tests. We developed it for a while, like 6 months. And then we became also with a different name, a better name, I hope, as well. It's called now Luna UI, and we publish it as an open source project as well, because probably if you have like some similar problem as we had that time, you can just take a look on it and see how we did it. And yeah, this is a outcome of the work we did together, me, Bruno, and Sebastian. And I will, yeah, I will just like start showing you guys those 3 points when I go to use any package, basically. That's like how is it built, how to use it, and also what are the benefits of using it. So how is it built? It was basically like this. We had already our ecosystem of applications using React, and the first the first question we had was like which one we should take: style components, emotion, glamorous. And by that time we decided to go for styled components because Sebastian, he was studying about it already, and also the community support was actually like bigger that time as well. And as we were using also React to create our apps, so we didn't have to think about creating like an agnostic UI library, for example. And also we use like Jest for testing, like the unit test, the application, the UI library. And one of the features that we most used was the theming, because basically, as you saw before, we had like 6 different applications, but we wanted to create the same component and also be able to somehow change the look and feel of this component, like colors and this kind of things, from one application to the other, but still using the same component as base. So we used like a lot of this feature. And how to use it? It's actually really simple, and I'll show you now. It's really simple. First of all, well, all you need to do is install it. But first, you have to pay attention because you should not download this package, because it's not our package. The guy in the talk before my talk, he said like you should first of all look for the name of the package. We didn't do that, and that was a problem. So we needed to use like this, Luna UI lib, and you will add it to your project. Really simple, and I'll show you now. Yeah. And I'll show you now how it looks basically. So let's imagine first that you have this application here. Like it's a super simple application. It's one of the screens of our app, for example. And as you see, you have a lot of components that are basically like duplicated, and they also could be like encapsulated in some like reusable components, for example. So it's basically here. For example, you have this top card with the information, and also this button and blah blah blah, and also like those 2 tables basically. How is it built? It's super simple. As I mentioned it to you, the first thing you have to pay attention. Yeah, I think it's good enough. Yeah. The first thing you have to pay attention when you are developing it here in your app, you have to wrap the all application you have with this theme component from our UI library, because it will give to the components you have the power to access the theme. That is basically a JSON file full of like color definitions, just like this. And once you have like this tag, this component here, you can start creating your app inside of it, and using also like the components from the Luna UI. So there I have basically, yeah, like the header and the content. And the header I have, the header is here. So in the header I have this customer info component where I show this thing here, like the customer name, the data, and also I have this other link basically that if you click it will open to like the content in another tab, just like this. And you also have those tables. And then here, for example, in the customer, if we go like from the beginning, if we go for the customer info, yeah, you see that we have like this handler for images, for example, because it was a huge problem we had back in the days where we wanted to somehow abstract the logic of all the time, like choose the, for example, the fit of the image and also the format it would render in the screen. So basically we have this thing here and it accepts the image data, and you have all this other information here, the name of the user and blah blah blah. So we have also this hint that's like this label, basically this small label here, this one. And we also have here in the content, yeah, we have this content component that basically is rendering this table 2 times. So basically what happens here is that this table is one of the components we have in the library as well that basically hide all this logic you would have to do to create the one table, for example, like in the style we wanted to have in our library. So basically you have the table here with all the things you need to create a label at a table. And you also have like context menu, for example, for this thing is this one here. And if we go back, yeah, and then if you go back and ask yourself, like, but yeah, you told me that basically you have like created it, but what were the benefits of using it? The first benefit we had was that our UI components, they became way easier to maintain. It was really hard in the beginning because we basically, as I mentioned to you before, we had the same component 3 or 4 times in the application, and also in other application the same component. So it was way easier because then it became to have only like one single source of truth for our applications, like for our UI components. Also, the code quality, it improved a lot because as now we just have to create one component and then you can basically reuse the same component everywhere. We just have the job to write one component, so it's like less work, and we can like spend more time to really attention for what we are doing, right? And also the UI, the consistency of UI, because we did this job together with the design something. So basically, it was something that we were like thinking step by step. And yeah, if to this screen and just show it to you, and then you say like, but what you did right, what you like wrote there. Basically, everything that we used to create this interface, for example, was something that we already had. For example, like the image rendering, the render I told you, like the tables, the context menu, the badges, for example, and like the table configuration, this kind of things. So basically, all the job we had to do there was to just import the UI library and then start using one thing that was for sure like working because we really paid attention to what we were doing before. And you know this thing I told you about having this power of changing yourself like from like this guy moving from one movie to the other. We also became to have the same power because we created like many other applications using the same components with different looking fields, but in the end of all, it was basically the same component. And I think, yeah, where to find it? It's super simple. We have here. We have here. It's stored in under this Luna UI lib in GitHub, so you can just like go there and take a look how we did it, and also like contribute to it if you want. Feel free to be really, really cool. Another thing was that we started doing it, as I mentioned to you, as an internal like tool, and it was like the first version we had our storybook, and it was basically like a handmade thing. But here you can see like the power of like changing. You have like these themes here, and you can see like all the components changing colors, for example, and like and also all the components we have like yeah, all the components we have like this, and also like changing how they look, for example. And the only change we are doing here is changing the JSON file which points for the themes. And of course we needed to improve it, so we created a storybook, and it's also linked here in the repository. So all the components we had here back in the days, now they are migrated to the storybook, and then you can see like, yeah, for example, here you can like update like the component you have, yeah. And also you have like some themes here just to you try it out and see how it will work. You have like options as well for each component, and let me see, yeah. And yeah, as I mentioned, it's there in Luna UI lib. You can try it. And also, if you wanted to take a look in the slides for this talk, you can look it on my speaker deck. It's this one here, and I will publish it on Twitter as well, so you don't need to do it now. And dziękuję. Thank you for being here today. Did you guys send questions?
Yeah, thank you, Rodolfo. The most like questions for you, why another UI library?
Where was it? Right here.
Yeah, so that's great.
Yeah. Because, I don't know, now I'm joking. Like, actually, it was a need from like, it was a business need for the company. Because, of course, we could use like material UI, this kind of things, but you know they wouldn't cover the needs the company had, and also what the design team at that point needed to do. So basically, actually, I also asked it to myself the same question. I also asked it to my friends, like, why shouldn't we just use another thing that is done already? But it was basically a business decision, and then we said like, yeah, since it's a business decision, but we want to do it in the proper way, you know, like I don't want to just write code here and go home and then feel shame by the thing I did. Yeah.
Okay. Rodolfo, why someone for the audience should choose Luna UI over React Bootstrap?
Why? Oh, now it got another vote, right? So I don't know. Why should you use Material UI instead React Bootstrap? The point is, what will cover your needs in the time, right? So, for example, you could create like any UI library, and then it would or not cover your needs. But the point is, it's not like trying to show you and say like, now you can use it, but it's more to show you how we did it, and also how you can do it in your job, because many people like they need to do it in the job. It depends also like the size of the company you work, basically, and that's it.
Okay. Um, how do your themes files look?
It looks like this. I can show you actually. No, it's not this. It's this one. It's just a huge file. Okay, you can see it. It's just a huge file, like with some color definitions for each component you have, for example. And we have like this primary that for some colors, for example, it will do some calculation of like color scheme to don't make like a strange theme, for example. Yeah.
Okay. And the following question is, does style components affect the size of the final style assets?
Ta-da. Yeah, it affects, but because we actually, in the first time we did it, we basically decided just to import everything and then see how it would perform. And then we faced this problem that was becoming like really big, like everything was becoming really big. And then we decided to, like, for some things in the UI library, we actually don't use the whole styled components. So we basically extract everything, and then we just use what we needed. So we are able to like kill a lot of trash code.
Okay. Rodolfo, are you happy with styled components? What are pros and cons about them?
Yeah, I do. I am happy, and like for us, for example, when we decided to use styled components instead, the first decision was because it was the most adopted by the community that time, and it was also like it would be easier for us if we had like some big problem, right? So, but the thing was like, I it depends of the things you want to do. Like if you don't need to write like something that's really attached to React, for example, you can just use like emotion, for example, and then you have basically the same outcome.
Okay. Um, can we import separate components, or do we have to bundle whole your code or
Yeah.
none?
hmm Yeah, actually you can actually just like import it from some other things like this, and then you just need to import the area, for example. Yeah, you can do. Yeah, and then it's way smaller now.
Okay. The next person is asking how difficult will it be to develop an app but tweak some things on their own way? So that's the top question right
Yeah,
now.
okay. I don't know. So basically, I believe that everything you would have to define, for example, in the component, would be also going to this like configuration JSON or like theme JSON that basically, as we have for the, not here, but for the header, yeah, for the header we have like the button, and then we have also this like options that we are sending here. So basically for this case you could just like radius and then define the border radius you want, for example, like treating it as properties, for example, for the components.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rodolfo, what do you think about creating UI components using web components? This way it could be shareable between frameworks, somebody is asking.
It's a really good approach, actually. Uh, the only thing is that if you use like web components, you basically have to do everything by yourself, right? Like with hands, like handmade things. And if you use some kind of abstraction for to doing it, you can do it. But actually, like if you need to create some component that's like shareable between components, like with between frameworks, like you can use, for example, other options like emotion, for example. Yes, it's because it's like agnostic to frameworks.
Hmm? Does your library follow W3C accessibility standards?
Yes, because it was one of the main topics in the company I work at, so they do.
Okay. Someone is asking, have you encountered problems with state management when implementing logic inside your components?
Yes, I did. For example, for example, this one was like one of the first components we created, like this the context menu, for example, and we we faced a lot of problems because the way how we were trying to do it was like really bad, and we were basically sending the state management like from one component to the other, and then I actually feel shame about it, but then we found out a better way of doing it, and then we just like migrated like all the components for it.
Okay. Are you familiar with emotion?
Yeah.
Yeah. So why did you go with styled components over the emotion?
hmm Because when we started doing like the creating the UI library, the first of all, like I weren't I didn't have any I haven't worked with like emotion, for example. And Sebastian, the other guy, he had more experience with styled components, and also the community support was bigger that time for styled components, and actually it's still bigger. And so we decided to go for styled components. Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's it. Is there anyone who'd like to ask a question to Rodolfo? Use Slido, please.
Yeah. Okay. If not, yeah.